Right. Good afternoon. It is July 24, 2025. This is a regular meeting of the Community Resources Committee of the Town Council. It is 3:02, and we have a quorum of our members here. I'm going to go around and see if everyone can hear us. I will start with, let's see, Pat DeAngelis,
Present.
Jennifer Taub,
Here.
Councillor Haneke,
Present.
and Pam Rooney is present. We're waiting on one other counselor, but we'll get started.
And I guess Stephanie, you can hear us, etc.
And Stephanie can, I want to check to make sure Stephanie can hear us.
Nice to see you.
Yes, I can. Nice to see you all.
Thank you for spending time with us today.
Sure.
Athena, can you make me host so that you can leave if you want to?
You're host.
I am host. Thank you. It does
You're
say
welcome.
that. I'm all done. You're done. We have no public hearings today, and we have 0 attendees. So this would normally be a general public comment period. I, with your pleasure, will add an opportunity at the end of the meeting to allow people to comment if we have any attendees. So we can move to the action items, and we are going to focus almost entirely on the solar bylaw today and hopefully get through as much as we can. And if you will all help me remember, I'm going to try to target wrapping that up by 4:30 because by then we need to look at minutes, next agenda, and that may take a little bit of time, and we need, of course, to be finished before 5 o'clock so we can skip over to our next special council meeting that starts at 5. So, Stephanie, you provided us a memo that you and Christine Brestrup worked on that sort of gives us a background of the work on the solar bylaw. And one of the people in particular that we wanted to hear this was Kathy Shane, and I still don't see her in the audience. Could somebody text her and just say, because she's a couple times forgotten that it's at 3 o'clock. Jennifer, are you offering? You're muted. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I'm offering. I couldn't, my screen went somewhere else. I'll text her now.
Okay, thank you. And she's had the chance to read it because we sent it out to everybody. Stephanie, do you want to give us an overview of that?
Sure. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay, just give me one moment. Okay, can you see that okay?
Mhm.
Do you want me to make it bigger or
Yes, that would be lovely. Thank you. Yes, as big as you can.
I'm usually better at doing this, making it bigger when I'm that good?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Chris Brestrup is really responsible for this document, but we sat together and went over it and went over where we were in the process and the things that we thought still were outstanding. I won't go over the whole history. I think in part, Chris was just reminding people the process that this had gone through to date and to bring us up to the present, because especially it's been such a while since we've last met. And I know Kathy joined, Councilor Shane joined in later in the process. So this was just kind of a summary to give people an idea of where we are at this point, and then to sort of talk about what's left to do. And the way Chris saw it was like there were basically 3 categories that the bylaw originally started with that had to be sort of pulled apart and put into different sections, and one was items that should be in the bylaw, items that should be in rules and regulations, and then there were some items that seemed like they were more boilerplate conditions. So where it stands now is that we've just been reviewing the bylaw draft only. And some things that were originally taken out and put into rules and regulations were then brought back in to the bylaw. So there is still kind of a variation of a rules and regulations document out there that exists, as well as a document that has a draft of boilerplate conditions. And clearly those are not the two documents you've been looking at to date, but they are kind of there, and we just wanted to remind you of the fact that there were other documents in addition to the bylaw that were created as part of this process, and not, we can get to that once you get through the bylaw. Excuse me, I've been sick, so I'm probably going to be coughing a lot. I apologize. Moving forward, the way Chris, again, was sort of identifying it is that there are really two major sections of the solar bylaw. And one has to do with large scale ground mounted photovoltaic installations, and the other is the battery storage systems, and that was going to be included as a section of the document, not as a separate bylaw. But the suggestion from staff is that at some point, especially now, the council may want to consider a separate battery energy storage system bylaw. But until that exists, there's a section within this document now. So just a reminder.
Stephanie, just one moment. I'm going to pause you and just
Yep.
see if Kathy Shane can hear us. I see her that she's been able to join us.
Yeah, I apologize for being late.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie.
Sure. So again, the battery energy storage system is something I think that, at the end, you all may want to, the council may want to revisit as an entirely separate bylaw, and there is a draft available to you, but how you want to handle that is really your prerogative. I think Chris and I were just ensuring that you at least had something within this draft, at least for now, because as we know, more newer systems require battery storage as part of the solar installation. So you really need to address it on some level. So at this point, I won't get into all of the details of this memo because I just think your process moving forward. So as far as, continuing the draft, that's something you're working on now. But what we wanted to remind you, excuse me, in terms of process, is that when this draft is done, it should be sent to KP Law before it gets sent anywhere else for them to weigh in on the, legal merits of the language. Because again, there have been some bylaws that have been questioned because they were too onerous. And so we want to make sure they at least review that language. And once they get their review back, then we recommend that it go to select staff, town staff, department heads, the building commissioner, assistant planning director, myself, director of sustainability, assistant of public works, and Erin is actually, her new title is conservation agent. She's no longer the wetlands administrator. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. But Erin would also review that as well. And then a memo would be prepared once that staff weighed in, a memo prepared to go to the town council that would go along with the draft bylaw. And then the draft would be presented to the council with the recommendation that it be referred to the planning board and to the CRC for public hearings. And so then there would be the public hearings, you get recommendations, and then there'd be a draft memo to the town council about those processes and results. And then from there, the council would have a hearing and then have a readings, and then it would be adopted or not, and it would proceed from there. But I think what we wanted to ensure that was included in your process was that it gets to KP Law for review prior to going, when you're done, that's the first thing that should happen. And then to the recommendation for the two committees to review and staff and then the two committees to review. As far as the BES, the recommendation is that, it be referred to the CRC for refinement and the planning board for refinement and further development. And that process can, obviously proceed. So those are our recommendations. I just wanted to share that as sort of next steps, because we're very much in the process of the work, so of the editing. So we wanted to make sure that there was a vision of what comes after this.
The light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
I'm going to call on Counselor Haneke.
Thank you. I found missing from this document, so I'd like your thoughts on this, is by the DOER under the 2024 climate bill has a deadline for promulgating regulations related to clean energy siting and permitting processes for solar projects less than 25 megawatts, storage projects less than 100 megawatts, and transmission and distribution infrastructure that will govern the local siting and permitting process led by municipalities. Those regulations are the draft regulations are set to be published in the fall of this year, with final regulations promulgated before March 1st, 2026, under state law. Those will include, under the DOER website, common standard application, to establish a common standard application, pre-filing requirements, standards for applying site suitability guidance, consolidated permit, guidance for procedures and timelines, responsible parties subject to enforcement, public health, safety, and environmental standards, processes for municipal feeds for compensatory environmental mitigation, and common conditions and requirements. And nothing in this document indicates how or when those regulations we should be, or the town should be working to ensure that what we've been doing complies with those regulations that we'll see drafts of in probably 2 months. So when would you recommend we begin incorporating all of that, or deal with that as it relates to this bylaw and other solar and BES bylaws that you referred to?
I think it makes sense to continue your process and then send it to legal counsel for their comment. And I think at that point you can incorporate any changes. I think at this point, I think you should just continue as you are. And I think you can incorporate those changes after, like prior, before it gets to the council, but I think we would want legal counsel to review it and comment.
So should we begin incorporating those regulations as those regulations come out in draft form in a couple months?
I mean, I honestly think you should just continue as you are at this point. I don't think you should start trying to incorporate those comments at this point, because they are in draft form. So my recommendation would be to just continue as you are. I think you could, I don't think it would, in some ways, I think it would be easier to make the changes once they're finalized than to do it now.
So, sorry, Kathy, just one more clarification. So your recommendation is to try and get this adopted right before, given all the timing that I did in my head, so that they come into effect about maybe a month at most, if not less than that, before the final regulations are promulgated, and then redo the whole thing?
Given the process, I do not think that you are going to get this done before the states. Because because you have legal review, you have 2 other committees that have to have public hearings. You got a long process ahead of you. I don't think this is going to get done before then.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that's why I think you could, I think if those changes end up happening, it would be easier to edit at that point when you have sort of a final version. Right now, you're still trying to figure out so much. I just think you should just continue your process. And when that time comes, then you can amend as needed, but I don't think this will be done before that process is finalized.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Counselor Haneke, could you send a link to me, and I'll send it out to everybody on the website that you're talking about, Department of Energy. Thank you. Kathy?
She actually can send it to all of us, Pam. She just
Oh, okay,
mentioned it.
good. Good. Send it to all of us, please.
Having talked to us, it doesn't have to be a two-step process.
That's right. That's right.
I'm actually building on Mandy's question, because KP Law, if the initial review of KP Law is to make sure there are no red flags that would run us into trouble with the state, as opposed to they also look at wording, subtleties usually. So it's usually not just confined to that. And they've got drafts coming out in the fall and then final coming out in March. It seems to me, and it's hard. The pace at which we've been working through this is exceedingly slow, is the way I would I would frame it. So, but
How
to
about
have-
glacial?
but to have them review it without the context of what these regs are going to say. So you can read what the initial law said, but you won't be able to read the regs. I'm just worried about wasting legal time. That's just a question. I understand why you're doing it. So maybe if it's a quick read, that to the extent they know it, is there anything that's a red flag, and they red flag it rather than try to wordsmith it? So that was comment reaction number one. And I agree with what you just said, with Mandy thinking about timing. If this is going to go through all the hoops that you just did, different people reviewing it, and then planning, and then to council, and then hearing, the chance that we have a final before the final regs come out is slim. I'll do that. So that's just a comment on when the KP Law folks are looking at it, to not waste it. And I'm going to combine it with my second question. If we don't have a draft BES yet, because it didn't get referred to the council yet, but we're trying to do pieces of BES within this without knowing the context for standalone BES. To me, it would make sense, even if it hasn't been referred to us, to see draft BES, so we can just be looking at it as we're thinking of what pieces of it should be in this framework. And so that it could, including not have them conflict with each other, to be them, be similar enough. And then to the extent there is a decision, they should be really separate from each other. If BES can move along quickly, you could have the two be promulgated. But in the meantime, have enough of BES in here that isn't in conflict. And at least for my purposes, I don't think I've seen a draft standalone BES. So do we have to have it referred to the council, to CRC, or could we just say, we're not going to work directly on that, but we need to look at the pieces that we've been incorporating in the large solar? And I guess it's also circling back to KP Law, that if they're going to say, why do you have BES embedded, BES should be separate, just to try to anticipate. So I have the two questions: timing for KP Law, so you don't waste their time, and when will we see full BES, to know how much of part of BES should be in here? Because right now, even the prologue starts talking about BES right away.
So Kathy, we can send you, we were given a draft of the BES a long time ago. It was sort of, I think Chris had developed something before we, as part of the working group.
Okay. So you already
so
have it. Is it, and it's not any further along than that one that you got, Pam?
Yeah, exactly. So we can, I can ask for a copy of that. We'll put it in next month's packet.
Okay.
And I'll work with Stephanie just to make sure we've got whatever version is that. So we'll make sure that goes into the packet.
Okay, so that answers my question about that then.
Okay.
And just I think side by side reading of this makes sense to me, and including defining things in the same way.
Right. So as part of recognition that we weren't going to work on the standalone BES, we have incorporated the wording LGPI and BES broadly throughout this document to just imply that the submittals are similar, the environmental
and
concerns are
Pam, if you
similar.
send me that, then I can read them side by side.
Okay,
That's
okay.
exactly what I'm looking for, you know,
Yep.
how much of Bess is going to be embedded in this and
Yep.
not be in conflict with Big Bess.
Sure, sure. Jennifer,
Standalone Bess.
right, right.
Oh, no, I was just kind of thinking out loud and commenting. I appreciate having this document about the next steps, because I guess I hadn't really thought through that it was gonna have to go to the council and then get, referred back to planning board and to CRC for the hearings. And I guess just thinking aloud, it seems like we're not gonna finish this before the end of this council session. So, or could we? It's seeming like we won't. And then just in terms of bringing the next council and the next CRC up to speed, I hope, there's a way not to lose too much time during that process.
It's a really good question, a really good point. Part of just thinking about how to get through this, I mean, we're doing chunk by chunk, and we're going to focus on the hazmat section today and just those elements. I would float the idea that, as with other bylaws that we've worked on, that perhaps we could have a couple of us sit down and work. Thank you, Stephanie, for that.
Sorry.
We could have a couple people sort of work diligently through the material that that we have in hand right now. It feels personally to me, it's a little bit like the ADU that, the town worked very hard on while the state was also developing its material. It feels important to have sort of a picture of what Amherst Amherst is wanting to achieve with this bylaw even before the state comes out, just so we can, as part of the input to the state, we can make recommendations on some of the components that we think are important. So from that point of view, I feel like it's important that we have at least a wrapped package that can be used as a basis of comparison with what the state brings. So does anybody else feel like if we stepped back from this, because we have two other bylaws that we have to focus on as well, does anyone feel like the subset would, or like two of us sitting down and working through it, would that meet anybody's expectations? And I'm not advocating for it. I'm just Pat, and then.
Well, I think Jennifer had her hand up, then Mandy, and then me.
Oh, okay, Jennifer.
My question is just, so is that permitted? Would that be considered a subcommittee? It would.
So I know, I mean, so Mandy and Pat sat down and worked on hazmat. Mandy and I worked on chunks of the rental registration, sort of hammering out stuff. It didn't feel like it was that far off base, but I'll go to Councilor Haneke and hear it directly from you.
The difference is whether the committee assigns 2 or more people to work on it together, or whether the committee assigns one person who then chooses to meet with others to then produce a draft that then the committee sees. So Pam, when I worked on rental registration, it was me that was working on it, and I approached you. I was assigned by the committee to redraft a section or whatever, and I approached you outside of that assignment and said, hey, you seem to be one of the more into it members of the committee. Here's my thoughts on this. What do you think? We sat down, we did stuff, and then we brought that back to the committee. But it was under the committee's guidance, I had final say in whatever the committee saw. With the hazmat, I think Pat said she'd go back and rework it, and came to me and said, "Hey, you're the one that had all these concerns. Let's sit down, so that what I rework works for you, right?" So, but if you were to say, if the committee were to say, we want a draft produced by 2 people from this committee that are going to sit down and do it, that's a subcommittee, and that needs to
Okay.
meet in person with notice meetings and agendas and minutes and all of that.
Thank you. That's good clarification. Pat?
Yeah, what Mandy said, but it's interesting because it worked really well for me when I took on responsibility for hazmat, and then I picked the person I thought I was going to have the most difference with. And no, but I see that as a positive way to collaborate. So I would like us to do that. The other thing that, in terms of subcommittees, I sat in on the housing subcommittee last night and I learned that it's been an informal committee and they've been violating open meeting law for ages and making decisions and bringing it to planning board, and most of the planning board has sat on it. So I don't want us getting into that place. So I would like one person assigned and then that person can work with one of us. I'd like to be one of the people working because I have been invested in this. I propose a moratorium to solar development installations until we had a bylaw, which I gave the planning board an active bylaw. And so I've been doing this since 2021 and I'm kind of sick of the process. So I might not be the best person to do it, but I'd like to have input.
I was gonna say that's
Thank
why you
you.
would be the best person.
Maybe. I got a lot of anger.
Counselor Haneke.
So there aren't many sections that we haven't actually talked about as a first round that we could probably get through
Yeah.
if we sat down and did it as a committee. But beyond that, I'm going to say the same thing I said. I read off the list from DOER of the regulations that are coming. Application. They're going to have a standard application, which means the entire submittal section, I believe, is going to disappear and be rewritten to whatever their application is, because that's going to have to be what is submitted. And so I've been saying this for a while, especially once that was adopted in 2024, which is, I'm not sure it's worth our time, especially if draft regs are coming out in a month and a half or 2 months. Draft regs to final regs do change. I will say they do change. Sometimes they don't change a lot though. But if in the meantime, I know you've got a packet out there, I assume this week or next week, the paper will put the notice out there for the 2 zoning hearings. At least one of them is
Right.
going to take multiple meetings, I believe. If we concentrate on those zoning hearings and getting those for those 2 things that are outstanding, by the time this committee gets back to it, we might have draft regulations that we can at least reference as we discuss round 2 coming back. So I don't know whether it's worth a person sitting down and trying to go through the second set of comments. I don't think we should go through, I don't think a person should sit down and go through a first set of comments when the committee hasn't talked about it at all. What worked for rental registration is we had talked about it, and so I knew the direction of the committee and could go to a person that had a lot of thoughts on it. But if we don't even know the direction of the committee on the whole sections yet, it's hard to rewrite them because you don't know what the goal is. So at this point, I don't personally think it's worth it. I think maybe once the draft regulations are out and we see them and we can talk about them as a committee and we've made it through round 1 on this, then it might be worth it for someone to come back and bring a new draft incorporating all of those comments in. But right now, I'm not sure it's worth it.
So. I think we'll talk about this again. I don't know that we need to make a decision today about pursuing it or not. It feels like we could at least get through the bulk of the of the document so that we have discussed, we will at least raise any red flags or concerns in the portions that we haven't talked about yet or haven't talked about much. And then I am worried about doing a lot of work and then having it undermined by what the state comes up with. And that's, that, anyway, Kathy.
I just, in my reacting, I totally agree. We should just get to the end of this document with the way you all have been proceeding, which my observation of it is that we make changes, not all of which are final changes, but they're changes. Every once in a while, it's a final change. Sometimes it's a change with comments, so not final. So if we got all the way to the end, I would be willing to be a lead person to try to get it to a clean draft with soliciting comments, but with the caveat that however, when we're meeting in August and when we're meeting in September, I'd want to take the whole document and say, okay, there's some choices here. Where are most people thinking about it? So I'm thinking about even the beginning of this has two beginnings right now, two draft beginnings, like which paragraph is the way we lead it. And I'd be willing to get it to what I call clean. It would be track edit, and then something to read with comments. I'd be willing to volunteer with that. And I did start reading a few of the laws that are on the books in others jurisdictions or draft, to see where, Pat, I think you had put in a different prologue, a lead in, and where it came out of a particular place. And it was wording choice that's going to matter for these regs that the state has, that, we're supporting it. We're not trying to kill it. Kind of it's to support, to promulgate the whatever, and paying attention to health, welfare, and the environment. So I'm willing to do that, but what I wasn't part of is the initial discussion about, when did I come in, about one third of the way through, where it's redlined with some comments on the side where there wasn't full agreement about something. So I need some guidance on do we all come down pretty much here? And Pam, I think we just need to, and I would pay close attention to wording that's likely to be flagged, because it looks like it's going beyond where we can say it's the public interest that the state law said is legitimate to recognize. So I'm willing to do that, but I would like us to say, how many meetings do we have between now and the end of the year? And if we get to a stopping point here on this document, can we carve out 1 hour that just quickly goes through so I can get feedback from everyone online? And then what Mandy knows how we've done finance. Sometimes this is very different, but in finance, where there's a larger report, different people wrote a section of it, and then I merged it into one larger document without a lot of back and forth. But I'd be willing to do that. I'm just suggesting me because I haven't been as involved, so I'm not wedded to, there are no Kathy comments in the little margin anywhere so far. So Kathy is just coming.
Okay, and thank you for volunteering. We may come back to that. There are approximately 9 meetings between today and mid-December. So that's, and as noted, we have at least 2 ADUs, two bylaws that are going to require a couple meetings worth of public hearings and decisions. So, there's 25% of our amount right there.
Okay, so we have an hour and a half remaining in today. So maybe we should just figure out how far we can get to today.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, so that's an approach we've talked about a little bit, and we can talk again. The material that Pat and Mandy did put together was focused on hazardous materials, and I would like to stay focused on that today. I had some questions so what we now have is we have hazardous materials in a section called 17.x. It hasn't been named yet. We have some material in the definition section that was added, and we have a lot of material in section 1710, which is the protection of drinking water. There are a number of items in that list that pertain to hazardous materials. So the question is, and I have 3 or 4 questions here, and I'd be happy to put my list on the screen, but the conversation that I'd like to have is where do you want these materials to end up? Do you want to see my list? Do you want to see my questions, I mean?
No, well, I'd like to see what document. I'm looking on the, our SharePoint. There's one document that says hazmat edits. Is that the core document we're looking at that you have questions on?
It's version 13A with hazmat.
So there's a version 14 too, which I sent you back in June, and I emailed you today when I saw it wasn't in the file. It's a cleaned up version of 13A with changes made to the sections that we discussed at the let me pull up the right meeting.
Well, it's been the June meeting.
At the June 8th and June 21st meetings, which included the stuff on submittal requirements and dimensional standards that was brought to us by staff.
Chris brought to us, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's the most
Right.
recent version, which is version 14.
And Mandy, does that have all the hazmat changes or edits in it?
It has it
Well-
all in it. I actually accepted them from a draft, so you can't see track changes of them, but it has
That-
them all in it.
That's okay. I just would like to be before I look at Pam's questions about them, I'd like to look at what we've got.
And it incorporated some of Pam's questions into it in terms of
Can we
some
pull
of her
up,
comments.
can we pull it
Yeah.
up on the screen?
Yeah, because I only have 13 and I printed it
Right.
today from the
And
packet.
that's all, that's what I have as well. So Mandy, you're absolutely right. I forgot that we had a different version.
Well, can we put it up on the screen?
Yes, she's putting it up right now.
Good.
You should be able to see it.
Okay.
Oh, and you've changed the number to 18. Oh dear.
I
just-
relabeled it so it's easier to talk about the numbers. It'll be fine. All the sections are still 11 or 10 or 9 or 8. I don't think any
Okay.
of those changed.
Okay,
The
but we already-
paragraphs did, but the main
Okay.
sections did not,
But we already had an 11.
which was construction monitoring and maintenance. So those might have gotten bumped. We haven't discussed anything past 11 yet.
Okay. So let's look at hazardous. What's the
Can it
18.10?
become a little bigger, please?
Yeah, 1810 is your weak drinking water.
Okay.
And hazardous waste, as we said the last time we discussed it, was put after that.
Okay. Yeah. Can you make this as big as you can possibly make it since
You want to see the comments or not on the screen?
Can you read the comments on your screen?
Not if I take them off of your screen, because
Okay.
then they'll be off of
That's
my
actually-
screen without
that's-
scrolling.
Okay. That's perfect right there. That's as big as you can get, I think.
So
Okay.
the things that say PR drinking water realignment are what's in the extra document that I believe Pam attached to the packet. That have
Okay.
the 611, 25, 611 and all. And so that's where I tried to sort of add the document into this so that you could see what it was within this document without floating between documents.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I'm a little discombobulated now.
But do the substance of your comment, Pam, and then
Okay,
Mandy will find the section that you're talking about.
Okay, the substance is, if we were to go to the new hazmat section, which I think is now being called 11. It's a fairly reduced section now, which is great. One of the questions that I was asking, and this was a suggestion from other bylaws, could we call this section hazardous materials and waste management? Because we actually talk about management stuff. And obviously need to discuss that. That was just a suggestion. In this last paragraph, we have, it says the storage, use, or presence of hazardous materials on any site within the surface water supply protection area shall require a special permit from the zoning board of appeals. And there are two questions here. One is, why do we need to specifically call out a special permit from the zoning board of appeals? Why would we not just call it the permit granting authority? Or is it specific that it must go to ZBA? That's one of the questions that I had.
So if, I think I'm correct in saying if a special permit is required for a modification of a bylaw, but it's under site plan review, the special permit generally gets issued by the planning board. And so the question is, does the committee recommend that it be from the permit granting authority when a solar array is under site plan review, which would mean the hazardous materials in a surface supply, whatever, in that if it's under site plan review, that would be determined by the planning board, not the ZBA, or do you always want it determined by the ZBA?
Can I just ask, do we have to make that decision in this? Shall require a special permit, period?
So I think if it just says special permit, it goes to the permit granting authority, whoever's reviewing the initial application. And so the question is, if you always want it to be the ZBA, I think you have to say ZBA. If you just want it with whoever's reviewing the application, then you don't need to specify.
If I'm trying to remember the use tables, if I remember, most of the reviews are special permit. There are a few site plan reviews, you're right.
So for large scale, for RLD, it's an SPR, and in LI and PRP, it's an SPR.
Yeah.
And associated one is SPR just in LI and PRP.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. Do people have any thoughts about that? I'm happy to.
I have a naive question. On terms of the chart that was in the packet, the battery energy storage systems associated with a large scale thing is site plan review. And my understanding, and I admit that it's naive, is that site plan review is for a permit for use allowed by right. And given, which means that any large scale could have a BESS with it. And every location where we have a large scale ground mounted, whatever, Huji, is not appropriate for BESS storage. In fact, it could, in an area where there are wells and no connection to sewers, it would require the fire department to bring trucks and trucks of water to cool, because the fire started by the battery systems burn for a long time and can reignite. Mandy, you got your hand up.
Yeah, Mandy has, yeah, go ahead.
So I don't think that's the most current version, because what's on the screen is, we talked about site plan review, not that.
Right, and I'm
associated
saying,
LGPI didn't match the LGPIs in that one. And so what's on the screen is the changes we made at the last meeting. We discussed this regarding that use table. And so the only place it's SPR is the same place that LGPIs are SPRs.
yeah, that, right,
Except for RLD, where we made it a special permit anyway.
right. But I would like to, sorry, I apologize. I don't remember the last conversation, but I'm feeling like that should be special permit. Unless, because is it by right? You're saying that any large scale installation can have a best storage area with it, and that is not safe in all areas. So why would we say it's by right?
I think
You're looking at the RLD, which has SP no with an N next to it.
I'm looking at the LI and the PRP, the Professional Research Park and Light Industrial.
Okay.
which are SPR for both.
Yeah,
I can't fully remember the conversation last time in SPR for either of these, but I think there was a conversation of if they're not the same, even if it's the same application, because these are associated, right?
yeah.
It means that they're going through two different hearings on two different boards at the exact same time, which is quite
Okay.
convoluted. And so you want to keep them the same. Or I think we also had a discussion, but maybe we didn't, about whether BESS associated with LGPI is actually a secondary use or whatever they're called.
Second primary use.
Is it a second primary or is it an accessory? So does it even need a permit, or is LGPI? I think we had that discussion too, but we never resolved
We didn't
that issue.
resolve it.
Yeah. But it was, I think, more of a streamline, because otherwise you're in two different boards at the same
Gotcha.
time,
Gotcha.
dealing with
Okay.
different things.
I still don't like it, but I understand it.
So going back to the hazardous materials section, it seems like it forces the issue that it is definitely a ZBA directed special permit if it's within a water supply protection area. And we also, back in some of the setbacks, which is one of my other questions here, we're looking at 400 feet from X. So
So
yeah,
before we move off of this section, can we see if anyone's got requests for changes or anything to it
yep.
before you pop back to a different section?
I think this is a clearly worded section, and I like the change in the header because materials is discussed later. And Bandy's got approved by fire, whether there's a question on whether fire should be in. So I think if we could just say this is okay, it would be, you've got a cross-reference, Bandy, whether there's a submittal requirement. Is there a submittal requirement? So that would go back up to the other section. I'm just looking at the comments on the side.
I think the conversation that we had about this particular line was that we want an emergency response procedure identified prior to any accidental discharge. And the way this is worded, it sounds like a response procedure following a discharge. We want to be proactive. We talked about there being a requirement of energy response procedures as a submittal plan, which makes much more sense than sort of coming up quickly with a plan once something has spilled.
And I think there was a question of whether we put the phrase, if hazardous materials are used, stored, or to be transported on site, emergency response procedures following a discharge of this shall be developed by, following a discharge shall be developed. Or shall be, that's why we had it in potentially submittal, is that you have to submit the procedures
Right.
as a thing with this.
Yeah.
But
So
instead of developed in collaboration with, we thought maybe it should be worded, shall be approved by the fire chief or something.
I'm more comfortable with approved by the fire chief. Yeah.
I'm more comfortable with collaboration and approved with final approval. Because, I think,
Yeah.
the issues for fire department are quite intense, and they'd be more aware of it than possibly any developer. And if they're doing it in collaboration, then the fire department, the chief could approve or not, depending on where they get.
Do you want it approved by the fire chief or approved by the PGA, since it's developed in collaboration with the fire chief?
Oh, that would be all right.
Right.
And are we adding something to submittal requirements?
Seems like it.
Yes.
The lawyers are gonna have a fun time with this.
It's gonna cost the town a fortune to have them look at it.
It will be a cleaned up copy. It will.
Well, no,
This is never gonna get clean,
Yeah.
toots.
No, even if we clean it up, the submittal requirements are lengthy
They are lengthy. Yes.
and they're complex.
Yes. So it sounds like we're basically now in concurrence with the hazmat section that we see today. Any other comments on that section before we move?
There was one other one about the phrase. We have to talk about the definitions, but Pat and I were unsure, given the definitions of discharge and disposal, whether this phrase was necessary upon or within any land on the site or within the surface water supply protection area.
I don't think it is.
Given the definition, we thought maybe
Yeah.
we could delete that phrase.
Yes.
So when we agree on it, couldn't we, well, I'm sorry.
Can we get rid of it?
Could we just,
Yeah.
could we just make this clean rather than?
The draft that gets sent to Pam is clean, as well as this one. This is so we can see. So we
Okay,
can
okay, Mandy,
track
I'm fine with it. I
The
can.
next one you will see that says V15 will be clean with all of these changes
Okay.
accepted.
I
And
very
comments
much
gone.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other comments on hazardous materials and waste management?
So if we just reviewed that, we should review the added definitions that came with this section before we move to a different section.
Okay, what were the added definitions? The three at the beginning in 1703.
So it was discharge or hazardous waste discharge, disposal, drinking water supplies, and hazardous materials and hazardous waste.
I'm going to ask Stephanie, who just stepped away from her video. if it's easier or more expeditious to reference state law on any of these. Do
So,
we can we simplify wording?
I mean, you certainly could, but you want to ensure that the state definition that you're referring to is consistent with your use of that definition in the context of the bylaw. Right? So
Okay.
Just to that point, I think I wanted to, the more I was thinking about Councillor Henneke's question at the beginning about timing, I do think that if the timing is such that the state regs are nearly finished at the time that this is finalized, or if the two processes seem to be parallel, you can also refer to the state guide, the state
Mhm.
bylaw, the state laws, instead of having to define, like, for instance, if you're talking about submittal requirements, you just might have to say, our application procedure follows the state requirements under blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be cumbersome to modify this if we have to, I guess is all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Yeah. Mandy.
So I just wanted to say for these, is it 5 definitions? These
Mhm.
3 and the 2 below, one of which you can only see part of. They basically come from either state or federal, or mostly state or federal definitions already. I couldn't tell you right now which ones, but or a combination of some, because the state actually has multiple definitions of hazardous materials depending on what it's going for, whether it's indoors, outdoors, or this or that. And so we sort of combined some for, as Stephanie just said, to make sure it worked with what our goal was, but we did not make up any of these
Yeah,
out
yeah.
of our own. Oh, hey, what do we want to include? We went to state and federal sort of sources and said, okay, or industry standard sources, and looked to what they used, and tried to use those
So
definitions.
thank you. Let's look at number 02, and that's discharge or hazardous waste discharge, accidental or intentional spilling, leaking, pumping, pouring, emitting, emptying, or dumping of hazardous waste onto or on any land, into or on any land, surface water, groundwater, or into the atmosphere. That's pretty complete. I think that's great. And anyone want to?
I don't have any problem with any of these.
I don't either. I don't either. I think they're very,
I
I mean,
don't either.
they're extensive, but they're there. And as we said, we can always reflect other references at another time, but we've captured what we're talking about.
And then we
go
did
ahead.
have one question about drinking water supplies, given that we added a definition for just drinking water supplies, whether that could replace our use of surface water supply protection area and that definition throughout, because I think Pat and I thought drinking water supplies was more comprehensive. But you'd have to look at how we used the surface water supply protection area definition within the bylaw. But keep that in mind, that we might be able to use the definition of drinking water supplies instead of surface water supply protection area. But we have to see where it is in the bylaw. The one thing that this one uses is currently in use, or which may reasonably be expected to be used in the future.
Mhm.
So it sort of looks prospectively at water sources, even
Right.
if they haven't been tapped yet.
I think 04 is good because we still have places in town that the town water doesn't do, where there's some building and people are sinking
Mhm.
wells. I mean,
Yep.
this protects that potential source, that they don't have the well yet, but if a house goes up, it's gonna have a well. Yeah.
And this includes public or private drinking water supplies, not
Which-
just public.
Which is great. Just the differential though between drinking water supply as a topic. And the the protection area, because we referenced the protection area down, surface water supply protection area. That area is that's a geographic zone. So I think they're two different things. So I like having the drinking water topic up above and having the surface water protection area also. Any other comments on the hazardous materials definitions that were added? Can we accept those and turn them into black print?
We will do that in version 15.
So,
Okay, great.
Mandy, when you're cleaning this up, are you removing these, like this one, staff note, unanimously agree definition references with ecosystems? Are those going to be gone too?
So that one's not gone until we've resolved that issue with this definition here that doesn't have a
Okay.
definition right now. But for example, the one I just hit as resolved in this, the one about place replacement definition, that we're not going to use it as replacement, so we're not getting rid of the other one, that one will be gone in cleanup. So the only ones that stay between versions are those that have not been resolved, that still need dealt with.
So can I ask on ecosystem, if it's not resolved and it's complicated, do we need to have it? I mean, as I understand the comment on it, is right now it's very vague on what an ecosystem is, and it could be way too broad. I'm looking for the red flags, and this is what I say is a red flag. If an ecosystem can't be defined separately from water, farming, a bunch of other things. It's a question I'm asking. So it's a ecosystem colon right now. Do we need to, or can it just?
Well, I looked up definitions for ecosystem services, and it's the natural infrastructure that helps us protect fresh water, fresh air, et cetera, et cetera. I don't believe there's anywhere in this document that we actually describe, or there's no submittal plan for ecosystem services. There's no specific element, I think, that where we actually address it. I'm going to look to Stephanie. Stephanie.
My question is, that is a very broad definition, so that I wouldn't be uncomfortable with that. So Stephanie, go on. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that this is one of those areas where staff collectively as a whole felt that this isn't a term that's used anywhere else in any of our other bylaws or identified as any kind of a resource that we're protecting, even within conservation. So we just felt this was broad overreach, and it was just one of those maybe more current phrases and terminology that has been, recently introduced, but is not something that historically we've looked at or included in any of our processes. And we felt that this was just really going to be something that would be flagged anyway, and that would probably get pulled.
And that's why I'm suggesting just delete it rather than trying to define it.
We had,
go ahead.
Sorry, but I believe previously we had wanted to delete it, but I think one counselor said, let's keep it in there just in case we find a way to use it and a good definition, which is why there's nothing there, but placeholder.
So I think the one counselor may have been me, but I did look up a definition, and it's very broad, it's very general, and none of these specific actions in the rest of the document are so specific to a particular ecosystem service protection. So I too would agree that we could eliminate this. Great. Okay, while we are still on the topic of hazardous materials, let's go to section 1710. And so this is a pretty significant section brought from the Drinking Water Protection Committee. And there are a number of elements in here that to me actually felt that they perhaps belonged in another section. And the reason I say that is that some are very specifically, you know, plans that are requested or standards that we should be requiring. So what occurred to me is that many of the items in this section are general best management practices that should be applied to any project, not just drinking water areas. And so I went through, and it looks like, Mandy, thank you very much. You've sort of gone through the items and made some of those notes. But I would like to hear feedback from everybody else. And so that so the question is, if we have something like the very first one, the 1810-01, solar panels used in LGPIs in surface water supply protection areas shall be PFAS free. To me, this is the best practice. It is, it could either be a standard condition or it should go to design standards and just say, when you're designing this, just be aware you can't use PFAS in your construction. Does that feel appropriate to be sort of distributing these elements out of drinking water supply? Mandy.
I think a lot of it made sense, Pam, what you were suggesting, because a lot of them are not just protecting the surface water supply protection area, as you said. And so many of these to me did make sense. And something like the LGPI solar panels, I know Pat has assured me there are PFAS-free solar panels, and so the question becomes, do they all have to be, or is it only in the surface water supply? I think that was some of the questions that I had. You look at number 3, phase to limit land disturbance to an area of less than or equal to 10 acres of disturbance at any given time. Is that only in a surface water supply protection area,
Yeah.
or should we just do that anywhere, right? Right now,
Yeah.
it's just in that, but if we move it somewhere else, it's all the time. And some of that makes some sense. The stabilized with controls until vegetation is established. In fact, that might already be in our slopes and soils section. I'd have to look, right?
It is not yet.
But it makes sense that it should be there for all slopes and soils, not simply surface water supply protection. So I did think a lot of these made sense. I put up here what I've got here. If I scroll down, you can't see these sections, but this is where the numbers refer to these numbers here: 1, 3, 4, 10, 11, 13, 14. You suggested going to design standards. 5, 6, 7, and 8. You suggested going to dimensional. And partially move 9, 12, 15, and 16 into hazardous waste. I think those were the ones I had a little bit more question about. And then you actually indicated you would be willing to delete 2 and 14. So 2 is this one, because it's already required.
Right. That was
bylaw.
that was Stephanie's, I think, comment too, back when, that the stormwater prevention plan is a requirement.
Yeah, and 14 is impervious when calculating water runoff, I think is the other one you said might be able to be deleted.
And that's done regularly now. Yeah. Yeah. So as I understand the suggestion, it sounds fine to me, but what I'm understanding is, rather than a standalone section that's just water supply, you're moving pieces to other places where it's more general, and we're protecting slopes, we're protecting more than just water. And then would this entire section disappear?
I think there was still some material. I don't know how much is left actually after all that.
No, I'm just saying I would be fine with that.
None is.
I need to see it, and I also think it's correct that some of these things aren't just drinking water, they're broader.
I'm going to ask Stephanie. there actually is not much left of this section 10 once if we were to distribute these conditions, because it basically says the following construction operations and requirements shall be met in, in the drinking, in the water supply protection areas. Do you feel comfortable that we actually don't have a section called drinking water or protection of drinking water supplies? I know the group that developed the guidelines certainly would love to see something very specific, but all of these many of these appear to apply to other basic construction as well.
My feeling is that you're not getting rid of them entirely. You're just moving them
Right.
to other sections, so they're covered. So I don't think
Yes,
they should have I mean, at this point, they've done their task. Now it's on you all to make that decision, whether you think they fit best here as its own section or elsewhere. And I would concur that they're better distributed as you have them outlined here, and they're still within the text of the document. So I think you're fine.
okay. So if we could, Mandy, while you're scrolling, I'd like to stay focused then on the hazmat related items, and let's just work through those first.
So that was 9, and then, hold on. The hazmat was 9, 12, 15, and 16.
Okay, so okay. So this one is all the hazardous materials shall not be stored.
So if I was rewriting it, I would reference just hazardous materials because everything else is sort of
Yeah.
within the definition of hazardous materials now.
Yeah,
Number 1.
Stephanie.
I apologize. I have to ask us to backtrack a little bit because I had just two comments from Chris Brestrup regarding the previous section, but we were going through it kind of fast and not line by line, and I don't want to have these few things lost. And one of them is if you scroll up again to the drinking water section, there was one in particular, sorry.
That was section, yeah, okay.
Vegetation cover over under solar panels shall have a 90% or better uniform coverage at the conclusion of construction.
Mhm.
But it needs to include except for agrivoltaics.
Thank you. Yep.
And I think there was just one other. No, I think we're good with everything else. I think that was it.
Great. Okay, back to and we can talk about where that goes, once so let's go to 9 again. Okay, good. So it's called now hazardous materials should not be stored in no disturbance areas or wetlands or within 100 feet of, can we just say within 150 feet of wetlands?
So I think you had actually suggested deleting the or wetlands part.
Yeah. It's redundant. So the question of this, where did we say? Let's see.
Now, why wouldn't these be in the hazardous material section?
So I think we're gonna move them. We're just fixing the language in them.
Right, no, but I think this one is one I would move, and I'm looking at the others you flagged, the chemical soil stabilizers and salt that has specific, gets more specific. I would like them. I mean, it beefs up the hazard material section a little bit to talk about, so people understand what we're talking about.
So right now, Mandy is highlighting and then moving to the hazardous materials section.
Yep. No, I got it.
I would reorder these to make them make more sense too, but,
Yeah,
But I-
yes.
But I think
Because-
that makes sense because it's specific to hazardous material.
yeah, no,
Right.
but this one
Yeah.
might make more sense up as number 4 in the.
Oh,
paragraph.
yeah.
That's what I meant by reorder.
All we've done now is dump it into this section. Now
Yeah.
we, next round, we can look at that section and see if there's redundancy.
No, I think she's gonna order it with numbers for us, Pam. So
At
it's
some
it's
point.
dumped for
some point.
this minute, and then the clean version, we'll see it in a logical
Yes.
order.
Yes. And does this include the PFAS-free panels? Did we pull that in here?
No, you had suggested that would be in submittal.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I
you're right.
pulled all 4 that you suggested.
yeah.
Were moved to hazardous materials out.
Yep.
And PFAS free, you suggested be in design standards.
Yep, you're right.
So
Okay.
I worry about the herbicide pesticide, simply because I know that's one that the AG and All Solar Things has any type of herbicide pesticide language. The AG has flagged as potentially going against state law on use of herbicides and pesticides, which we can't do. We can't contradict whatever the state law is. So I only worry that that might get flagged as not allowed.
So
I'd
if
have to go
that,
back and look at what they've specifically flagged though, but I know that was dealing with herbicides and pesticides was one thing that the AG in town bylaws consistently flagged as not legal under state law.
so if it were to be kept in the drinking water protection item, that makes there's a real rationale then for keeping it, for not allowing herbicides and
It
pesticides.
wasn't the rationale because it wasn't under the 40A Section 3 issue that they were flagging it on. It was under that it violated the state laws on herbicides and pesticides and that sort of usurpation of you can't violate the next higher levels of government's laws, right? So the state has already regulated the use of herbicides and pesticides, and so we cannot regulate it beyond what the state has already done. That's what they were flagging it on, not under the
Okay.
40A.
But it occurs to me is that I thought we were allowed to be more stringent on certain, health and safety issues than the state is. And
We
this,
are. That's why I say I have to go back and see what they were flagging and what they were saying. But that's the one that
Okay.
concerns me that we might need to do more research and it might get flagged.
okay. Do you want to just make a note of that?
Oh,
Who just sighed?
I did. I know, I just, because I think the state's not gonna allow poisonous substances near drinking water either. That will be part of theirs.
Yeah.
So that I understand the concern. I mean, and you're warned on some of these horrible things not to put them anywhere near it where an animal can get to them, like
Right.
it kills wildlife.
Yeah.
Why we don't ban it if it kills wildlife and is bad for children and it hurts your water supply? It's
So
Right.
I think this sentence here on how they're labeled, covered, and contained kind of does the same as this one here. Although we could add the labeled part.
And that one actually says impervious containment.
Impervious containment areas.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think it goes better here than
That's
no
that's fine.
disturbance
Yeah.
areas. And we can work on making sure they're not in conflict.
Or redundant.
Yeah.
good. So this starts to pull all those miscellaneous hazardous material focus into this one section, which feels good.
So this outdoor storage one, I'm not sure is necessary because most of that, if it's included in hazardous materials, we've already said impervious containment areas labeled and all of that.
I think this is the one that, because it lists salt, de-icing materials, pesticides. I mean, it was like, don't forget, all of these things are considered, hazardous materials in some way. It's almost feels like a reminder rather than, being actually necessary, but it's,
Well, if it's a reminder as part of a definition, open definitions, just say includes pesticides, just say it
Yeah.
includes it rather than putting it here.
yeah, exactly.
So some of them might not be included in this. Herbicides and pesticides probably are. Fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides, and this uses hazardous chemicals. It's the de-icing and salt that might not.
So I'm just thinking about the solar array up near Kathy, when the Concom was looking at invasive species management. They asked that there be no it's PFAS essentially, no use of Roundup because there are alternatives to Roundup. If we don't specifically eliminate the use of Roundup, would somebody know that we don't want it included?
So if Roundup is considered a hazardous material, we've already said we haven't excluded it from being used. But they need a proper storage and all.
Jennifer.
If they're already outlawing it, why do we have to put it in here?
They aren't out, it's not an outlawed material, but the Concom chose not to. They asked for PFAS-free herbicide.
No, but so Pam, what I'm saying, if Concom is already doing that, do we have to put it in the bylaw?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But that's really my question. I mean, I guess on one hand, we can't list every hazardous material,
Right.
but who's going to make, I mean, sure, there's no hazardous material if, the permit granting authority, whoever may not know something's a hazardous material. So how
We've
do we?
already said vegetated areas can't be subject to herbicides, pesticides, except necessary to get vegetation established or erosion and sediment control plan.
So I'm gonna ask, what is Roundhouse? Is that-
Roundup is the one I was telling
Roundup.
you, that if you look at it, it will kill knotweed in theory, but it won't. Our knotweed thrives on it, so we don't use it anymore. It just grows bigger. But
But it is a hazardous material?
it kills small animals. Don't let your dog near it. Don't let your cats near it. Really be careful about getting it on your body. And it's supposed to kill invasive species.
So if it were used, who would know aside from? I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying, is there?
It's a
Thank you, that's good.
it's a particular one that I read recently that there's a consideration of just banning it because it's pretty.
I guess what I'm saying is the operator of the facility
Yeah, no,
need to keep track of what's a hazardous material and on is on or they're on or to.
no, I'm agreeing with you, Jennifer. And
Yeah.
if Concom is picking up something like this and saying, you might want to control it, but you can't control it this way, we don't have to get super specific.
And the question on this one then is also, is this a bylaw issue or is it more of a condition issue of the permit?
Sounds like a condition of the permit.
Well, a lot of these are kind of conditional, but can we leave that for now
We'll
and
leave
just,
that for now and come back to
Yeah.
it.
yeah. Yeah, that one needs a little more thought.
So
Okay,
that's- The next set was the short, 5, 6, 7, 8 to dimensional standards.
Yeah,
so these all relate to the water supply protection zones. And there was, I think something that Chris Brestrup had was a suggestion of sort of reworking the dimensional standards, and I don't want to touch that right now because I'm not really ready to talk about it.
We
But
reworked
in-
them.
Yeah, in section 1707, it is where they list all the dimensional standards.
Yeah, and we rewrote that, the last meeting, we talked about this to this. But we could add the other ones into this section.
If other people feel that that's a reasonable place for it, it makes sense.
they are dimensional standards.
Yep.
I'm not hearing any objections to it.
Great. So
And
this
then we
is the
still have to check with Amy on 3 of them.
Well, actually, we got these numbers are, I believe, from Amy. And I could look up that reference again, but I think
They,
that's where
they
we
were
got.
from Amy. They were.
Yeah.
from-
Yes. As recommended by the drinking water protection group.
So we've already checked with Amy?
I'm pretty sure Amy looked at them and was okay with them. I can
Okay.
triple
Yeah.
check, but
Yeah,
Good
and
pilot.
she'll get a chance to look at it again too. That's good. Okay, what's left here? It's 4:30 right now. I think we can move these guys pretty quickly, right?
So one of them was, are we deleting the prevention plan 1?
That's a Stephanie question. That's required in any construction over an acre, right?
yeah, it's already required, so it just seems duplicative.
Yeah.
And so the rest were gonna be moved to submittal requirements.
Not all of them. Let's see, number 3, that first one, those felt like they're not submittal requirements. Those two are could either go into design standards or
Oh, sorry,
under
design
soils.
standards, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, they were all going to go to design standards.
Yeah.
And we had thought about deleting the Moan one, which I agree with.
Deleting the which one?
Mowed to a height.
Yeah, we talked about that, but I want to come back to that just briefly.
Hmm.
the mode, it does say mode areas, so that implies that it's a grass of some sort. And the only reason to have a limit, which is something that we picked up from the working group, having a limit of 4 inches of mowing height means that you don't get, it's less likely that the vegetation dries out, burns out, and then basically doesn't do its job.
I guess, yeah.
Minimizing erosion, that's all.
I understand that. I guess I just think, who's going to enforce this?
And
You
I
know,
will say,
because you don't know when someone mows. So are you going to have someone going out there every week, every other week to try and see every day, have they mowed it? Is it, and measuring it? Like, it just seems a little too nitpicky to me.
and the panels up here, they do mow. Up next to the golf course.
But they probably mow it once a season.
Well, they mow it a bit more because the stuff grows so fast, it grows right into the panels. I mean, it doesn't help to have grass that's taller than the panel because then it blocks the sun.
I don't mind getting rid of it. It was almost like a precaution, but it's not critical. At least it's not obviously critical.
So at this point, I think there's nothing left in that section.
Right.
So when Mandy redoes this, 18.10 will disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, folks.
And are we
That's-
moving on then? Oh, no, we're not doing anything more with this today, right?
Yeah, we need to stop. We need to stop. Thank you. That was a lot of work.
So Mandy, when you do whatever you're going to do to 14 and turn it into 15, if you give me a signal that here it is, or just send it to all of us, because you'll do the clean version. I mean, it's really helpful for me to be able, Stephanie said we're 75% of the way through. I don't even have any sense of, are we really 75% of the way through, as opposed to we've made one pass through 75% of it. But when I'm looking over in the right, all the little comments, we've still got a ways to go. And you're going to post, Pam, you're going to post the best draft.
Yes. Yep. 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 So, thank you, Mandy, and thanks for editing and being our scribe. Very much appreciated. So if we're moving on, are there any other, let's see, get rid of that. I'm collecting all my papers here. Okay. We have,
Pam, before we move off solar, I
Yeah.
would like by email, I don't need you to do it right now, to you to say at our next meeting, which whatever date that is, 2 weeks from now, we're going to spend 1 hour on solar. It would be my request. And we are going to address X through Y. Just focus on that's what we're going to address. And then we'll spend the other hour on the 5 other things we're supposed to do, or, the 2 other things. I just think forcing ourselves to
Yep.
focus and then get to an endpoint would be, Mandy, you remember writing the rules of procedure, the draft where we were thinking.
Yes, that's a very, very good suggestion. And we will go back to that practice because we've been really scattered for a while.
Thanks.
So we'll lay out what's the focus of the next meeting to be helpful so people can prepare. Okay, but that brings us a nice segue into the timeline for the next 2 bylaws. And given the 65-day requirement to hold a public hearing, open a public hearing within 65 days, that puts us at August 20. The meeting prior to that is August 14. So we do need to have our public hearing for the ADUs bylaw and for the fees in lieu of affordable units bylaw. I have sent a draft of that public notice to Athena and to Nate Malloy so they can beef it up and whatever they need to do to put it in the paper. So that's definitely on the agenda for next time. In terms of the timeline for that, I am actually going to be on vacation on the 14th, and I plan to be able to participate in CRC, but I frankly am not going to have the time to focus and do all my homework ahead of the meeting like I would normally want to. So I would ask if it's appropriate and possible to open the meeting then and continue it as we did for University Drive to the next meeting date, which would be the 28th of August. Does anybody have a problem with that? Mandy,
Are you asking both of them to be continued or just ADU? Without any discussion at all?
well, I mean, we could either spend the whole meeting doing that and have it as a public hearing. What I'm trying to get to is how much staff time do we need to present the material? How much beyond the memos that were given to us? What do we need
I
to
guess
sort of lay the groundwork?
I feel uncomfortable with noticing a hearing that people might show up for and then saying, oh, we're not gonna actually hold it, not because we can't, but because we're missing one member. I don't have a problem with holding it and continuing so that you have a chance to participate at the next one, but I think we should at least accept public comment and for the public that have made it to that meeting. You know, we don't have to close it, but if we're gonna put it in the paper,
And it
it's
wasn't,
kind of disingenuous to say, oh, we're gonna start it and then not actually start it and not do anything. Number one, and number two, I actually think for one of the two, the non-ADU one, I'm not sure it's necessary not to even continue it. It's so basic. That one, but it depends on where the planning board is on these too. We do have a policy of not closing until the planning board is done. I just don't know when the planning board hearings are and whether they're done with theirs.
I think August 6th is, I think we just got an email before this meeting saying when the planning board, Pam
okay.
Sadler.
So Stephanie has her hand up on this. She might.
Yes, Stephanie, thank you.
I actually have a clarifying question. Are your meetings every 2 weeks or on the first and third Thursday of the month?
Second and fourth Thursday of the month.
Oh,
typically.
okay. Okay. All right, then in that case, I'm not available on the 14th. I will not be there, just for your information.
Okay,
Yeah, the planning board is holding their hearing on, I think at least on the ADU on August 6th.
okay. Thank you for that, Jennifer.
And Stephanie, just so, do you have to staff this committee for every issue? is that what? I was, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think Rob is technically the
No.
staff member for the committee as a whole, and Stephanie comes in when it's helpful.
No, because I was just thinking that on ADUs.
It's Dave Zomack.
Dave
David-
is
Dave
the
Zomack.
Yeah.
staff liaison.
And then on the payment in lieu of, it's, neither one seem specific. So that was my only comment. Yeah.
Will Carol be coming, Pat, for that one? Isn't that from the,
Housing.
yeah, Housing
Probably
Trust?
guest
She's
on.
not on the housing trust anymore.
Oh, okay,
You know,
Oh.
she
That's
had
done as
served her
Carol.
6 years. Yeah.
that's right, I knew that.
I agree with Mandy that, if we start with housing trust, but I guess we can't hold a joint hearing on ADU. If planning is doing it on the 6th, we can't do it on the 6th.
We don't have time to notice the 6th.
Yeah, we don't have time, right?
Yeah, I just think it's a shame not to do them jointly when.
It's-
It is.
I think I agree with you. I agree with you. And for University Drive, they did not want to do a shared event.
Well, I'm just,
Um,
I know we missed a meeting because it didn't get posted, so maybe, but I'm just, it's a comment, because on ADUs, it's just to have people come twice.
I know.
Doesn't make sense to me.
I know. And for the ADUs, we also, I would like to have Nate be there at least to answer questions and give a short proposal, or sort of the overview, which he's done several times now. So if we focused on the fees in lieu of for August for August 14, does that feel doable for people? I don't feel I have to do quite as much homework for that topic. Okay, so
Do
we'll
you have,
Which
With your-
one is
with-
listed first on the hearings? Which one's opening first?
we can change however we want.
You should probably make the fee in lieu of first and the other one second then.
Okay, then I will notify Athena that we're switching. Okay,
so she already has the notice ready to post?
I gave her a draft, literally 2 hours ago, I sent them a
Okay.
draft
Okay.
for the paper notice. But I'll ask that go first, so that would be at 3:05, we'll put it for that. And then I had the second one at 3:15. But if we're actually gonna discuss
No,
3:30 at the earliest.
3:30, yeah, so but we need to open it. We need to
Right.
officially open it and then continue it if we need to. Okay, 3:30 for ADUs.
but
Okay.
I'm not completely understanding this, neither one of these seems to me inordinately complex. So could we not in 2 hours get through both of them? I know you're saying you can't be there, Pam, and I just.
I can be there. I just will not have any time prior to the meeting because I will be playing with my granddaughter. So I will not be ready to do any kind of in-depth thinking on it. And I will try to do it ahead of my vacation, which is as of the 10th. So it's not all about me. So if you want
No,
to
no,
do
no,
it,
and I'm just thinking, the public hearing is also to hear mainly from the public, I think.
yeah,
That not
yeah.
all of us have to weigh in. We're listening a lot,
Yes,
so it's the
that's true.
presenting and listening. It'll be my first CRC public hearing, I think.
Right.
I
Mandy.
will-
Yeah,
I-
so it depends on what the planning board does, because if the planning board doesn't close the hearings, we don't close the hearings because of voting requirements at the council. But if the planning board closes both of them, I definitely think, personally, I think the in lieu of can be done and voted and headed to GOL that day. I've got some issues with the ADU one.
Okay. and so
Whether that
then-
means whether we close and vote amendments, but I suspect the issues might require some thinking by planning department and planning board to see if they would like to change things
Okay.
again.
So then
and
that
all.
makes sense. So Mandy, that would be the continuation then, because we're not taking it as presented. We're.
Right.
I would like some changes, and I'll be ready with language and all, but I've got some concerns with that one.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll focus, this is the helpful conversation. We'll focus on fees in lieu of first. Maybe we can open the hearing, hear comments, maybe even close it that day and vote on it.
So can I ask, is planning board also doing fees? On
Yeah.
the 6th?
Yeah,
Yeah.
both planning board and council have to hold public hearings on all zoning amendments.
Okay, but I'm just asking, their timing is both of them on the 6th?
Let me check. I don't,
My question was specific
Yeah.
to whether
Yeah.
they're trying to do
Um,
80.
It's 4:46 and.
I know. Yep,
and could I
we're
just say,
getting there.
what I'm seeing on the 6th is they're doing inclusionary zoning. Oh, yeah, that's the same. You're right. They're doing both on
No,
the 6th.
inclusionary is
Okay.
where this comes
Right,
up.
right,
yeah,
right.
okay.
Okay, so I think we're settled. We don't need to spend a whole lot more time on that. Let's move to agenda item number 5, which is minutes. You saw the note from me. Half of those we've already approved. I'm not sure why they were in our packet. So let's,
I move that we approve all of the minutes listed as written. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you.
Can we
Shall
just
Okay.
we vote?
state the dates out?
excuse me, say it
Can we
again.
state the dates out so that the minutes reflect, or the minutes for this meeting reflect which dates we're approving the minutes for?
Okay, I'll open. Do we need to?
Oh,
I can read them off.
Yep.
The meeting minutes from June 25, 2024, July 9, 2024, August 13, 2024, and September 10, 2024.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Let's go around the room. Pat DeAngelis,
aye.
Kathy Shane,
Yes.
Jennifer Taub,
yes.
Counselor Haneke,
Aye.
and Pam Rooney is an aye. Thank you very much.
And Pam, can I
Um,
ask you, there's more minutes listed, but you said we've already voted those out?
We have already approved them. They are in our
It's-
minutes folder in our CRC SharePoint.
Okay, so I should ignore the list that's in the CRC SharePoint. And CRC has more than you just read out.
Right.
I am going to leave the meeting because I need to feed my dog and then get to the council.
No, that's
Okay.
fine.
All
I
So
would like-
we've already talked about the preview for next meeting, which is great. I have no other announcements. And I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move
I
to,
make
moved.
motion, so moved. Double, I double it. I
Second.
second it.
Okay.
Triple
Counselor
it.
Haneke, Counselor Haneke,
Aye.
Pat DeAngelis,
Aye.
Kathy Shane,
Yes.
Jennifer Taub,
yes.
and Pam Rooney is a yes. See you all. Thank you very much.
See you in a few minutes. Bye-bye.
See you in a few minutes. Bye.